Hi everyone, Robbo here. You're listening to the Blues Focus podcast. Keep right on.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the Blues Focus podcast. Before we get into today's podcast, I'd just like to give a big shout out to our current patrons. And if you'd like to join these names in the brand new Blues Focus Hall of Fame, you can join our Patreon page for just £1 a month. Perks included will be monthly giveaways and early access to guest pods. The link will be in the description anyway for our Patreon packages. But that's enough from me. Let's get straight into today's Blues Focus podcast. Thank you for joining us as always.
Hello and welcome to the Blues Focus podcast with me, your host, John Graham. Once again, many thanks for taking the time to download this pod. And as we always say, please make sure you subscribe so you don't ever miss a future episode. Leave your comments. Certainly off the back of yesterday, there's been plenty of those. And please rate the content. You know, we've had some unbelievable results over the last few weeks. And I do think they will continue from now until the end of the season. So, yeah, keep watching, keep listening, keep downloading. Right, enough of that. First and foremost, let me hit the introductions. Carl, how are you? Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to be back. Slightly better circumstances and a better mood this afternoon.
Well, I've got you as the lucky charm here, mate. So you're here to stay, to be honest.
Don't rely on me for that, honestly.
And Tom, how are you, buddy?
Good, thanks, mate. You?
Oh, absolutely fantastic, I think is the only way of putting it. 100%. So let's get involved. I think first and foremost, I did say when I started this pod that I would always, I think, give my opinions as I see them. And one of the things that I've been very consistent about is my opinion of Harley Dean. And I would say 99 complimentary. But I will say, before we do anything else, that I would say I would massive sort of pat on the back for him. Just a brilliant performance, start to finish. You can't knock him. He deservedly man of the match. And all I would say is I want another 9 of those because one performance, and we'll probably talk about that as we go through the pod. It is only one performance, albeit, thank Christ it is, and it's 3 points. But I think he now needs to set the bar. And I think there's been a few false dawns, not just with him, but with the team. So let's hope that he continues that level of performance. And if he does, we'll be a better team for it. So, yeah, so that's just a personal one from me because, I don't like to be a shithouse and just, blow people into the weeds when they're awful and not acknowledge them when they play well. So enough of that.
Support for today's Blues Focus podcast is brought to you by none other than Manscaped. Manscaped specialised in all your below-the-waist grooming needs. They've only just recently landed in the UK, so you could be one of the first men in the country to even try out their products. So get looking at them now. They're definitely big in other countries, and they've finally dropped in the UK. To get 20% off plus free shipping, use the code BluesFocus20 at manscaped.com.
Moving on to, Lee Bowyer is now our manager. Which is fantastic. So, Tom, I'm going to open up with you. I know you've been screaming for 4-4-2 for a while, as you've been saying. So yeah. I'm going to let you open up with what were your thoughts when you saw the news and the team, and did it deliver against your expectations?
I was delighted. I was so happy. I felt like I was looking at a proper Blues side. I was obviously overjoyed at the formation. It's proper kind of battling English football style formation that will grind you results. It won't look pretty, but you'll get the results. And yesterday was a prime example of that. Completely. And do you know, it was such a throwback to the Rowett days in a way. It was like, 4-4-2, the kind of low possession football, not playing it pretty and always along the ground, hoofing a few things long, but with sprinkles of kind of quality here and there. Especially that first half, I was really impressed with the solid kind of first 25 minutes, I thought, where we definitely looked the better side. Then obviously we tired out a bit in possession and then let Reading come back into the game. But overall, heading back to the lineup, I was really happy with the selection. I think the only two parts in my mind where I kind of question the lineup would be Halilovic on the right. I was kind of like, okay. I think we've seen him play there once, and it was a home game, not completely that long ago. I just can't remember who it was against, to be honest. But he did. He
Is that
didn't
because you've now disregarded every performance
under
before?
Aitor Karanka, yes. Wholeheartedly, firmly, yes. But no, I think that's kind of what came to mind a bit. I was like, okay, meh. And then obviously the central defensive partnership. I wasn't a massive fan of playing Harley Dean. I was a bit sad to see Clark Salter and Friend both left out. I was happy to see Harper and Gardner picked. That really, really filled me with confidence.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be down to Craig Gardner's influence, if I'm honest. That central picking. Bella was excellent in that first half, so I was happy he was selected. But most of all, I was just glad Juke was back in there in his desired role.
Yeah.
A lot of people this season have been quick to judge and say, "Oh, Juke's past it. Juke can't do it anymore." And I've probably said it once myself.
I've definitely said it. I've said it on a number of occasions.
Exactly. But that's because we've not played the formation that suits him. He scores goals, but there's just one way of doing it. And you might think, oh, but you could easily kind of work that out. You can't with him. Like you just can't stop him. There's a reason why his stats are so consistent with headed goals like that in recent seasons, because if you play to his strength, he'll score goals. And like Lee Bowyer said, you don't need to overcomplicate it, especially with kind of that big man, little man partnership. And Scott Hogan, despite not having any chances on goal, his work rate was brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. Even when he scored goals in games, I've never seen his work rate that high ever. It was fantastic. And we'll get onto the kind of the performance a little bit later on, but I just really thought the whole team pulled through, and I thought the lineup was bang on.
Yeah. Carl, thoughts? Any surprises for you? Was it sort of, based on what you know about Bowyer at Charlton, was it what you expected?
Yeah, I expected the top. It was kind of the formation behind those two that I wasn't quite sure of. He's played a number of different formations in League One with Charlton and in the Championship. I agree with Tom. Halilovic on the right was a bit of a surprise for me, especially how strong Sanchez has been generally over the season. But he has obviously got that little groin kind of niggle he's been carrying now for weeks, so he may have had that in mind.
Yeah.
I kind of varying from you guys. I wasn't surprised that he didn't change the defense, and the reason for that is I think, although they have made mistakes, they've played together for a long time now, and I think if they've got a manager who instills confidence in them, then they've got a chance to form a proper solid back four partnership. I was disappointed JCS was totally out the squad. But then I saw somewhere on Insta a picture of him with a baby. So I don't know if he's on maybe paternity leave or something.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I think Halilovic was the biggest surprise because I just didn't expect it to be there. And when I saw that, I was a bit like, oh, okay, that's, I like Tom said, I think he's only played there once, but I was pleasantly surprised by him. I think just the whole thing, I think, like you said, went back to Rowett days of just typical 2 banks of 4, 2 up top, run your hearts out, bodies on the line. And if they're going to score, it will be through either a worldie or a mistake, you know? But yeah, and again, to echo Tom yet again, seeing Juke back from the start was just fantastic because, time and time again, obviously I know this is only the second time I've been on, it's been crying out for someone up top with Hogan, i.e. Juke. He did it with Adams and look how fruitful that partnership was.
Yeah.
There's a reason that partnership was so good. And that's mainly because Juke wasn't on his own. So just really pleased with it. It looked, even when you just glanced at it, it looked like a Blues team involved. You knew that there was going to be a battle. And I think Gardner and Harper together in the middle, similar type of energy, solid players. And I think if they could have been running for 180 minutes to make sure that Reading didn't get that equaliser. So yeah, definitely positive.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with all of that. I think I didn't expect there to be a change in the defence. I wanted it. I did want it, but I didn't expect it because I think it would have been Yeah, I just think that Dean and Roberts have been in the club for so long. I think they've got a lot of the big personalities in. Certainly, Dean must be a massive personality behind the scenes, and I think he's giving them a chance. And it's a right clean slate. Let's show me what you're about. And I do think that Bowyer's personality will resonate and sort of register with Dean just on that sort of personal level. I think there'll just be an immediate respect there. So I wasn't surprised, but I'm not gonna lie. I didn't want to see it. I wanted to see something fresh at the back. I'm over the moon with Harper and Gardner. That's one I have been calling for a while. And I think there's a temptation that I'd agree. If Juke is going to be up front, you need somebody with him. But by doing that, you can only have two in the centre of the park. In reality, if you're going to play a proper, striker and big man, little man, you need something very solid behind them. And you absolutely bang the nail on the head there, Carl. With you can do when you've got Harper and Gardner, because they'll do three men's work. I mean, they were absolutely everywhere. Halilovic, I've always said, as long as he's on the park, I don't care where he plays. I think there was an element of continuity that he is a left pegger, but so Sanchez, and Sanchez has played there all season. So that coming inside sort of move isn't anything new. If he's going to come in on his left, but there was one instance, and we'll go on to the actual game. But as I'm on the topic, he passed with his right foot. It was a little 15-yard pass down the line, where if it had been Sanchez, he'd have cut in and he'd have lost momentum of the attack. And I just think with Halilovic, you've just got more of a rounded footballer, that he's not so reliant on, he's got a wand of a left foot, but he can play, I think, either side. And Djukovic, I just felt that his inclusion, if it was ever going to work, it would have been last night. I think if he'd have put in a performance that was, I don't think he's ever been lackluster. I think he's just been bereft of ideas. I just don't know. When I've been watching him, I think he's lost his confidence of where do I need to be, because he never knows where the ball's coming in, which I think leads us quite nicely onto the start of the first half. So Carl, just initial thoughts, and maybe did you see anything different? Not just the formation, but first impressions of that first half.
I think they were just on it from the minute the ball was kicked, and it wasn't a try for a little bit, but the other team suddenly get a bit of possession. So okay, we're going to stop this now. It was on it, and it was, we weren't giving the players, the Reading players, space. We weren't giving them the time that they're like. We weren't letting them play. We were first to second and third balls.
Yeah.
When was the last time that happened? Do you know what I mean? Like they were just seemed on it. And they all, from Etheridge, despite his mishap, shall we say, all the way through to Juke and Hogan, they just seemed absolutely up for it. And we've not seen them motivated like that, I think, for a very, very long time. And I think maybe Bowyer in a jumper did it. You think back to Monk and Rowett, the power of the jumpers. But like,
Adam will be happy you mentioned that.
But like, it just, I don't know, just, I think Darren Carter tweeted out kind of either after the game before that there was just a different energy around the place. And I think even sitting here, where am I, 120 miles away from St Andrew, you could feel that energy, and that it was just so different. And they were just, that was it. They're off, and they weren't going to let Reading intimidate them into backing down. They weren't going to, not track their men back. Sorry, and there's one point I think Bella dashed sort of 20 yards back to make a tackle. When's the last time Bella ran 20 yards to make a tackle? Do you know what I mean? And I think just throughout it all, and just seeing a manager on the touchline without a notebook, like it's just so many little things that I think has just galvanised them, and that's in 2 days. Imagine what it's going to do in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that, absolutely, bang on, mate, bang on. Tom, thoughts?
100% agreement. I think that's all part of the excitement now as well. That what can we do now? Like, what can we? We don't want this to just be a bit of a lucky bounce. We really want to build on it, and I think we will. I 100% think we will. I don't think it's going to be like one of those occasional wins we were getting under Karanka, where we think, oh, is this the turning point? And it's not. I think this is genuinely a new turning point, but not only that, it's a new chapter. And I really think we can build on it and look forward to the upcoming weeks. But overall, the first half, I was just so impressed. Like even going in at half time at 1-1, I was happy.
Yeah.
I was very, very happy. I felt like I'd seen a whole new squad. I think we had more shots in that first half than we've probably had in our last 3 or 4 games.
Despite their terrible aim in Christ.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's mad. It's like you get the basics right. Look at what you can achieve, and that's all that really needs to be said. That is such a bottom line comment right now. Like that is the bottom line, and I think my only criticism of anyone, literally all game, like I probably 2 things that I picked up on that I was a bit meh about was obviously the way we conceded the goal. I thought the kind of mixture of man mark and zonal mark with some of the players became a bit confusing, which led Etheridge kind of to commit to something he shouldn't have. I think the 2 men stood in front of him was a weird one. And then watching them kind of rush forward, rush back, I didn't quite understand the kind of tactics behind that. And also putting Maxime Collin man marking Yaku Mate, I didn't think that was a smart idea at all. Considering Yaku Mate's goal scoring record against Birmingham City Football Club. So no, I thought those would probably be my only criticisms, just that one set piece. But before we'd be talking about the whole game being a giant criticism. So to only kind of pick out that, and I think the only other mistake I'd really seen all game was I think Harper lost the ball at the halfway line at one point in the second half. It was similar to his Casey Palmer one, but you watch how quickly everyone got back when he lost the ball compared to the last time that happened to us. That showed commitment and desire, and we've not seen that this season pretty much. So we can save those individual errors now because everybody's pulling together, and that was it just made such a nice change. I think there was 1 or 2 crossfield passes from Halilovic that didn't quite work out as well, but overall I thought especially in the first half, Halilovic was just a different gravy. Like even when we've raved about him in like the QPR game, I thought that performance yesterday was his best performance for Blues. Because the energy levels were so different.
Yeah.
Like the pace was like 10 times higher, and it was just mental. I was so proud to be a Blues fan yesterday.
100%.
It was like watching the team that we all want to see, proper Blues, and it just made such a refreshing change and difference for a change. So no, the first half I thought we were fantastic overall, and it couldn't have gone much better, despite obviously the corner mistake, but at least it wasn't an individual error. Like I don't think it was all just Etheridge. I think there was a few things you could pick out of it, but the heads didn't drop either, and we bounced back.
Yeah, I mean, Christ, it couldn't have gone off to a better start for him, could it?
No.
And I was saying to Carl before we came on air that maybe we had a little bit of luck, and I think we were overdue that.
Definitely.
I don't think it was a foul, but I could probably understand if it was given, because when you look at it on the replay, I mean, Juke, he certainly uses all his experience. Let's put it that way.
But even Moore's body shape, though, it was all off. It was off.
I get it, but we've all seen him given, especially against Juke.
Yeah.
Because against Juke, it always happens, doesn't it?
Exactly, because they just think he's always trying it on, and in fairness, he probably is. But that was just a really good. I think they were absolutely like a coiled spring, and it's very difficult when you're in that sort of mindset to maybe remember the game plan and remember your positioning and remember this is it's a fresh start. I think people could maybe get a little bit carried away, and I think that goal definitely settled them. But it was really good to see Bowyer. As soon as it went in, he was screaming at Arlie Dean to say, "Calm down. It's 4 minutes. It's 1-0. Fucking calm down."
Because you can get carried away in those.
Of course you can, and Karanka's never doing that. Never doing that.
He's still sat on
because he doesn't get it. ultimately he doesn't get it. And I thought that defensively we look solid. I've got so I'm not, everybody that listens to the pod knows that I'm a massive fan of Harper, and I think Gardner's really come into his own this season. He feels like he's the heartbeat of the team, and we need that. We need that, and I think let's hope that we stay up and we dip in for Harper, because I think you can build a side around him. And I think Carl mentioned it last week, and I think me and Tom have said before, the spine of the team is what you build from. And if you've got the likes of Gardner and Harper that are the right age, nice mix of experience, good footballers, they've got what you want. If you've got a Hogan and a Djukovic as your spearhead, then, I'm not going to change my view long term. I think there is definitely a shout for a new centre half to come in. But all of a sudden that feels like a basis of a very good spine. They all put a shift in. I actually think we played some okay stuff, considering it was 4-4-2. First half, I thought we were okay.
We look comfortable.
Definitely, Gardner's had considering he's normally okay from range, he snatched at one that you'd like to think they'd hit the target with. I did say in the last pod that I'm starting to get a little bit worried about Etheridge. I don't want to be negative in any way, shape, or form on this pod, because it's not the time. I think he claims that ball at the start of the season. I think he does claim that. I think he was very decisive when he first joined. I think he's carrying a few scars, but having said that, and we'll talk about the second half in a second, made an amazing double save, which is his strong suit. Got down really well. It was a tougher save than it looked, and then got to his feet and blocked again. So definitely redeemed himself there. So I said, I'm not going to be negative about him. There is no room for negativity for following yesterday. And just to touch on, I guess my sort of man crush of Halalovic, the pace from over 5 yards with the ball at the feet is just unbelievable, and he's so direct, and he takes 2, 3, 4 players out of the game with just that burst of energy. And that's the difference between him and Sanchez. And I'm not saying Sanchez is poor by any stretch of the imagination, but I haven't seen many dribble the ball better than Halalovic for quite some time. And I think it's going to be because Bowyer strikes me as, and Tom, you said earlier, it's not a difficult game. It's simple. And that's the way Bowyer will look at it. He'll see that he's got a game changer in his midst there. And I think we're going to see a lot of him. And I'm just mega thankful that is the case. So moving on to the second half, obviously we certainly didn't have it all our own way. Carl, any thoughts of we're hanging on a little bit, or were you confident all the way through?
It's Blues. I don't think we're ever confident. If we were 6-0 up, we wouldn't be confident, would we? Let's be honest. I think Reading came out and they knew what they had to do. And they don't. I mean, I was looking at their stats for my preview before the game, and they've not dropped out. I think they've dropped out of the top 6 once all season, and that's for one game, and they were straight back in. I think they're a class outfit. I know it's. I think they probably should be higher up the table than they are. But yeah, I think we started maybe more nervy than we did. I think in the first half, I think the idea probably was to go out and do what we did again, but Reading changed the game with their shape. Yeah. They changed their play, and I think we gave them that time as well. And that's what started to worry me when we were letting them, when teams start playing it around at their back and stuff. And I'm fine with them to have it there, but it allows them, especially teams like Reading, to start dictating the play. And I think there were times where they were playing some great stuff, and it was worrying, especially when teams put balls into the box. We've been terrible with defending those all season. But I think the fact that we were forcing them to take, I think they only had really, bar their goal, maybe one real effort inside the area where the guy skied it.
Yes.
Although I think actually was offside anyway, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah, it was.
But they didn't get past the 18-yard line to shoot. Do you know what I mean? They weren't getting into those positions because their runs were being covered. We were closing down as soon as they got, and I think whilst it was worrying and it was getting to that point of, oh, here we go, Blues are backing off, Blues kind of knew what they would. It felt at the same time it felt like a hybrid that Blues knew what they were doing the whole time. It was almost like they were just lulling Reading into a false sense of security.
Oh, do you know what? Do you know what I thought it looked like? And Tom's made the comparison a couple of times. That's when it felt like a Rowett team.
Yeah.
That in those 20 minutes in the second half, it felt exactly like a Rowett team, because even in those times where you're looking at 25% possession, back in those days, never really got worried, and I was just waiting for us to do something on the break. Sorry,
No. That to be fair, that's exactly where I was going with it. It felt like Rowett, and I think like our first meaningful attack, obviously we got the corner out of it, and then we obviously Harley puts that header in, and I just think that header, take away anything else, the celebration afterwards or anything else, that header was a fantastic header. It was dropping out the sky. There was no pace on it. He had to get power and direction. He did both. That was a quality header. And I think Reading at that point then just looked out of ideas, really. I mean, they still look good and they were obviously trying, but they're resulting to what we used to do and just hitting long balls and hoping.
Yeah.
And that, as that carried on and Dean and Roberts were getting up and clearing them away, I think as that went on, we were getting more and more confident that this is all we're facing. And my confidence grew. My heart rate might not tell you that, to be honest with you. And then, and I think a big shout has to go out to Roberts there. I mean, Dean's got a lot of plaudits for yesterday, but Roberts alongside him looked really solid as well. I think it's the most solid either of them have looked. And then obviously Lecco, with probably the first header he's ever won for Blues. Got that header in the dying embers of the game, and I tweeted it out. I think we've talked about it as well. My heart just stopped, absolutely stopped, because it's Blues. We know that referees don't like us, although last night's ref was proper quality, I think, as well. I think that made a huge difference.
Yeah.
A ref that ref the game properly and didn't fall for bullshit.
Yeah.
And Lecco, that, and if there's, you can say Dean's header and that, but if there's one moment from last night, I think that epitomises that effort from the team, it's that header from Lecco.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have done that 1 game, 2 games, 2 months ago. But
He's never done that for Aranka.
No, exactly that. But he got there last night. He got to the header, took a whack for it, and I'm not going to say it saved the game, but it was a huge moment for Blues, I think, last night. And then I think we saw the rest of the game out really, really well. And I think it was just really, really solid. And just what we said last week, I think, and you guys have said multiple times, fans have all over social media, there was fight.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing, I think, in that second half, is they fought for every step.
Yeah. And I think just on that Lecco header, I mean, it looked horrific. Yeah. Not just from that looks a penalty. It looked horrific from he's been absolutely emptied. And when he sort of groggily got to his feet, I think it was Dean. He just gave him a really good shake as if say, that's what we're fucking talking about. That's what it's about. And again, that pride there, I'm like, what is this? Where's this been?
New look Blues.
For months. So, Carl, I think that was a very fair reflection of the second half. Tom, what did you think?
I thought we were excellent, to be honest. It was similar to the first half. Maybe not as many chances. We certainly we let Reading have the ball, but that's because I think Reading don't want to have the ball as much as they were given. And, you see what they did with all the possession they had. Well, 71% possession to be exact. They didn't know what to do with it.
Tom, just who because you're a lot more knowledgeable at the players in the Championship. Who was was he number 7, the young lad for Reading with the French kid? Was he number 7?
His name's gone. Hang
Elise,
on. Elise, yeah, Michael Elise, or whatever. Yeah,
he's a player.
He is a player, to be fair, but I think we made him look dog shit.
Agreed. No, I thought he was dropping it very deep just to get in the game, but yeah, sorry.
It's all right. No, I completely agree. No, Elise, they've been talking. He's been linked with like £20 million move to Aston Villa.
Okay, yeah,
so
I can see that.
And they're talking about him being better than Bellingham. I think that was a bit of a.
I doubt that.
Bit of exactly. a bit of banter going into the game from the Reading fans, and that they got what they deserved in the end. I think all the Reading fans were confident going into that one, but I'm sure they were confident going into the last time we played them. And look how that one turned out. And that was under an Aitor Karanka team, so I wouldn't big yourself up to be the dog's bollocks just yet, lads. But anyway, moving on from Reading a bit. Blues' performance was fantastic. There was commitment all over the field. And you know what? Alan Halilovic, although he wasn't involved in the game as much in the second half, you look at when he went off, he's shouting at all them players. He's like, think, look there.
Yeah.
And I've not seen that from him. I've
Yeah.
not seen that kind of almost captain-like antics. And it was almost like everyone on the field yesterday was their own captain.
Yeah,
And it was
100%.
great. It was just fantastic to see. And what a difference it's made. And we're finally seeing the potential that this squad has, and we've always said it has. We just haven't seen it. And I think it's kind of given them that freedom. And Harley Dean really pulling the lads together. He's throwing his body about everywhere as well. But I think he will love playing under Lee Bowyer. I think this is the sort of manager that Harley Dean will, go through a brick wall for. We all know Harley Dean's a massive West Ham fan. Lee Bowyer played for West Ham. And, if I was Harley Dean, I'd be like, oh, it's an ex-Hammers player. If I was playing for an ex-Blues player, I'd give everything I have.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. So little things like that can really have an effect on anyone's mentality. And obviously it's clear to see that Harley Dean is kind of at the head of the dressing room. So wherever his head is at, I think everyone else's head will be at.
Yeah.
So it was just fantastic to see. I think we really, really had a game plan.
Yeah.
I think we had a game plan and we executed it. We took the chance when it came, which we've not done this season. Let's be honest. When chances have come our way that we have to put away, we just haven't put them away. And what a fantastic header that was.
Well, I actually think he was the way he headed it. I think he was pretending that was Karanka and he was just nutting him in the top corner.
Yeah, and I think
that was a proper skinhead. Have some of that, lad.
I would be surprised considering his celebration, and that was top class shithousery. I didn't expect it. I just, as soon as you do it, I'm like, no way. I just couldn't believe it. Just the shrug. But I think that I mean, all the players were clearly quite happy that he'd done that, as well as scoring. So I really think that shows how Aitor Karanka reflected on that dressing room, and that's not me saying he's a bad manager at all. I just think he clearly didn't blend well with that squad of players, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But no, overall, second half, top class. Everyone played their part. Even the substitutes. Lico looked like a whole new signing, which was also great. You wouldn't see him committing like that under Karanka. I thought Bella was fantastic for the majority of the game. Gardner was good and probably the best player until he was subbed off, to be honest. But I think he had to be because he was certainly putting a few on people. Let's say the least. Putting a few tackles in, but that was also refreshing to see. We've not seen that much this season. They're really getting stuck in and making those challenges and making it tough. But I think it was definitely a ballsy move to do against a side like Reading, who have big lads. Like, that's not a small team. It's far from a small team. So to give them as many set pieces as we did, I thought was risky. But we certainly defended 9 times out of 10, the majority of them, very well. And we just left them clueless. They didn't know how to go about breaking us down. And that's because we stayed in a solid back line. And what surprised me as well was seeing the introduction of Steve Seddon.
Yes.
I was so happy about that because I honestly thought he was never going to play for Blues ever again, just because everyone keeps outcasting him and it's just shit. It's horrible because he is another player with bags of potential. But what was crazy was, we changed to a 5 at the back formation for the last 5 minutes and we didn't look a different side. And that's the difference. You saw Karanka do that. Nerves everywhere. Nobody looked confident. But throughout that game, we looked 100% confident all the way that we were going to win that game. End of story. And we just wouldn't let them break us down. And it was nice to see that a plan B, in a sense, of kind of how we defend finally worked. And it didn't look like it was such a burden on players. just everyone looked well drilled. And it's crazy what Lee Bowyer and the slim staff he had as well have managed to do in such a short space of time to rejuvenate this squad. And I think it's definitely shown the quality that we have on paper.
Yeah.
And it's finally shone through. So no, fantastic second half from the lads.
I think the one thing that stood out for me is we've now got a manager who has obviously got fucking common sense. So with the substitutes, I would challenge after that first half, and pretty much in the team that he selected, I think we could all called when he was making the sub who was coming off.
Yeah.
Which is the complete opposite of when Karanka was there. It was literally take your pick because anybody could have come off. Which again, I think had a detrimental effect on the confidence of a lot of players that were playing well and should never been subbed, and then for whatever reason didn't appear in the starting lineup the following week. Again, Tom, you made the point. Gardner, he was a walking red card. He had to go off. But I've been talking about it for a while. Said last week, I want 6 yellow cards. I want us to leave something on the opposition. I want them to know we're in the game. We don't want to be a soft touch. And when you're, fourth from bottom, up against it, if people think you're a soft touch, there's only one way you're going to go, and that you're going to go down. So those things of mindset change, attitude change, being cute with these substitutions, using the right players at the right time. I'm with you on Seddon. I probably wouldn't have brought him on yesterday, if I'm being honest, because the changing of the shape, I think it was ballsy. And again, I like that. At least you've got a manager that's got, it wouldn't have been, do you know what I didn't see yesterday? Those fucking A4 folders with the laminated bollocks that they're coming out with. They've obviously said, right, in this game situation, if Seddon's coming on, this is the shape we're going to go with. These are your jobs. I don't need to do a Fisher-Price fucking here how it works. This is how football works. It's your professional footballers will go 5. These are your roles, and they stuck to it. So again, the comfort for me of he just knows what he's doing and he knows what he wants. And don't get me wrong, he's not going to get it right all the time, but I think he's coming from a very solid sort of mindset of how he wants to play the game and what his expectations of players are. Harper was absolutely fucking ridiculous second half. He was everywhere. The challenges he was putting in, and for a kid who's
he rouletted 2 lads as well.
Mate, honestly, he ball coming out of from that in our final third, winning tackles, driving out with the ball, good passing, good intelligence. He just grows and grows for me. But just finishing off on the second half, and I think it'd be we've got to talk about the manager in a bit of detail, I think.
Yeah.
But there was a point with about 5 minutes to go, and Cosgrove was just inside our half, and he got it, and he all he needs to do is just hold it up, keep his back to goal, wait for a little bit of support, 5-yard pass, and he basically just smashed it out for a throw. And there was only about 3 or 4 minutes left, and Bowyer was looking at him and just gesturing, just saying, "Keep it to yourself." And I thought, finally. Yeah. So there were so many little things that I suppose it's a bit sad that we're actually highlighting things that are fucking Bobby average. This is shit that we should have been doing as a matter of.
It shows how poor we were.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but I think it also shows that we're all we've all watched the game long enough, and there's going to be thousands of Blues fans that have watched us over recent weeks and months, and just the relief of. We're not the best squad in the league, and we're not the best team in the league. That's a fact. But the reality is, more often than not, he's going to get the best out of that squad of players than probably any other manager will do.
Yeah,
100%.
That's a brilliant starting point. Now, where that brings us out to, who fucking knows? But
we play like that for the rest of the season, we'll finish 15th. Guarantee you.
If we play like that for the rest of the season, we won't go down. We won't go down. And the higher up the table, the better. But I think from where we were sat, where we probably didn't think the axe was going to fall on Karanka, to where we are now. Fucking hell, what a difference literally less than a week makes.
Yeah, exactly that.
So I'll go back to the last pod, and I'll I'll start with you, Carl. So we were sort of in the waiting for Pulis to rock up, and potentially an outside bet. Obviously Wilder was a very much an outside bet, and I think there was one other we were talking about, and it slipped.
Neil Harris was
the one, and I definitely didn't want
Mark
that.
Bowen as well.
Mark Bowen.
Yeah, and I think, in fairness, Tom, you did mention Lee Bowyer, and we sort of skirted over it, but I think probably based on, Charlton sat in 7th and new owners in. I felt that he'd probably ridden the storm of horrific ownership. Now got a decent foundation. Why would you move? So he has moved. So Carl, A, were you surprised? And B, you've now had time to sort of, I guess, digest it. What are your thoughts on him?
It was a little bit, because although he's obviously always been linked with Blues in management, and I think he will, regardless of how long his tenure is here, whenever the job comes up again, he'll probably still be linked, the same that Monk and Rowett always are. And even I heard someone mention McLeish, which cracked me up. And it was, I didn't expect it. I mean, myself, like I think every other Blues fan who was sat around, refreshing Twitter, refreshing everything. I think Adam mentioned, he mentioned all his phones out, and I just didn't see it coming. And when the news broke, I was like, well, the rumours that he's resigned, well, then he's coming to Blues, isn't he? There is no way Bowyer resigns from Charlton, who are 7th, 8th in League One, 2 points off the playoffs, for anything else other than to come to Blues.
Go to Portsmouth.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I couldn't quite see him at Sheffield United, given his links with Leeds. So I was like, I don't think that's going to happen. And so I was quite surprised. Ecstatic because of his links with Blues. Obviously, previously, and I don't know if you guys were at Charlton away last season.
I was.
That was incredible. The reception he got was insane.
It's goosebumps. That game.
Exactly. And it just felt right, I think, more than anything else. And then you know what Blues fans are like on the social media. Not always positive, we'll put it that way. But what you've got to remember is, at the start of the Championship season last season, they were unbeaten until we beat them. Yeah. They were like first or second.
They were second in the league, and I think it was 10 games in or 11 games in, they hadn't lost a single game. They were one of 2 sides that had not been beaten yet, and then we beat them 1-0 with Jude magic.
Yes, exactly that. And I was like, people need to remember that. Yes, and all everyone seemed to fixate on was that he went down, but he did go down, but they didn't have their star striker.
They had such a long injury list.
Yeah, and their injury, and you've got to take all that into consideration. And I was, the minute it came out, I think a guy who writes for the South London paper, I think, broke it, that he'd heard rumours of it, and then Jim White picked it up, and it snowballed. I was ecstatic with it. I thought it was a great choice, and I knew we would probably see 4-4-2 at some point, but we would definitely see 2 strikers, and we've just been crying out for that with a creative element behind them. And I just thought, similar to when Rowett came in, similar to Monk, even Redknapp to a degree, that he would have the ability to get that squad up off the ground. And I said earlier, look what he's done in 2 days. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's still a long way to go and there's a lot to work on, but in 2 days, it's almost like he's galvanized that squad. It's a different squad now. We might as well have 25 new players or whatever it is,
100%.
So really happy with it. And I think that the one thing we all have to remember is we've got to give him the time.
And
I know that's it seems a very obvious statement, but people seem to expect instant success these days. I just think we just need to take our time, let him get us to the end of the season, survive, and then the rebuild can begin. And I think it's great we've given him a 2.5-year contract as well. I know, given our recruitment history, that isn't necessarily
the end of that.
Going to see the end of that, but on paper, it shows that, in theory, there is the belief they're going to give him that time. Whether or not we get another Wren press conference in 8 months is a different matter. But yeah, really positive, and I think we've got a foundation to go on from now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tom, you sort of called it. Well, you were the one to raise his sort of name. So I still think it came a little bit left field. I really didn't expect it. So what were your thoughts, and where do you think he can take us?
I think it made sense for me personally. And the reason why I mentioned it was because Charlton weren't probably meeting the expectations they should have been meeting this season. And again, that's down to injuries, little kind of miniature runs of bad form, but also tough competition in League One this year, in fairness. So obviously they've struggled a bit. But they are still in and around the playoffs, so it's not a bad season. But I do think that he probably thought also in his mind this might be my last one of my last chances to get a crack at the championship if we don't go up this season. Um, and I think he'll have always wanted to take charge of Blues especially after that Charlton game. Even if we didn't have the Charlton game, I think he'd have loved to come to Blues anyway. But that Charlton game will have just kind of reminded him what kind of a big part he played in Blues' history and where he belongs in a sense in a lot of Blues fans' hearts. So that will have definitely swayed him a little bit mentally as well, I imagine. I'll never forget that Charlton game, to be honest, because when Jude scored, I ended up falling down a couple of stairs, and then a steaming hot pie landed on my shoulder, and I felt like I was on fire. But yeah, so funny old story, that one.
That's a great story.
Yeah, so I also had someone offer me £100 for my shirt on the day as well. Because I was wearing the retro shirt with the snazzy sleeves. It's a bit similar to this one with the Triton sponsor. But yeah. So no, I think
Was that before or after it was covered in stained kidney pie?
That was before the pie.
Okay, right.
Yeah, but no, it's fine. It all came out in the end when I put it in the wash. But yeah, no, so that was great. And I think, Lee Bowyer is definitely a good appointment. I think all Blues fans were virtually, I rarely saw a negative comment other than, your 70-year-olds and 80-year-olds that still pronounce Blues as Blues. And it's like, I don't know, I think there was a lot of old-fashioned fans that just weren't too happy about it. Unfortunately, but some people are hard to please when standards can be so high. But I'd say 98% of the fan base was overjoyed.
To be fair, mate, you got some balls to actually rate it as a, from the outside looking in. It's a fucking poison chalice. Yeah, who wants it?
Yeah,
and who wants it on so many different levels?
I don't think he'd take it on if he didn't think he could do it.
He certainly wouldn't have. And I know this is not many managers, or I think you'll have either have had to have been either a player at the club or have maybe managed against the club on numerous occasions when, St Andrews have been full to get a feel for what the club is about. I think anybody that's got no real point of reference with the club will just see it as a club owned by God knows who, with a chief executive who's a fucking lunatic and probably got one of the worst reputations in the league at his position. So who would want it?
Exactly.
You are down to Pulis. It was a way for him to, in a very short period of time, pick up a ton of money. Literally no lose gamble. If he keeps us up, he's into a massive contract next season. If he doesn't keep us up, only 10 games. He'd have done a better job than Karanka, but we might have just fallen short. E-Trousers, £250,000. Everyone's a winner apart from Blues. So when Bowyer was mentioned, and I'll be honest, I didn't. It's not that until it was mentioned, I forgot about the run they were on at the start of last season, and then sort of how close they were to staying up through lots and lots of, trials and tribulations over the course of the season. And then everything that was going on behind the scenes with the bloody owner's house getting fucking, broken into by I mean, it was an absolute horror story. So, he's had to deal with a lot of adversity off the pitch, which puts him in a brilliant position to come and manage Blues, let's be honest. So it feels that definitely Dong has not really been party to any of the conversations. Now,
he just has to toe the party line with saying, "I'm happy."
Yeah, I think the minute he starts to try and wheedle his way into any decision making from a football side, or if he starts rocking up at Wastills in his fucking tracksuits, he'll walk. You know, Bowyer is not the sort of guy that will accept that, because it's not how he's built. Onto the point I want to make. Having spoken to the likes of Darren Purse, Roger Johnson, Martin O'Connor, Granger, Paul Tate, they're all of a mindset of, and they're all probably very similar types of backgrounds in their own way. Don't take any shit. Very straightforward. Football is about hard work, commitment, drive. That's what Blues is. And when Bowyer spoke before the game, and then definitely after the game, it was like any one of those could have been talking about what it means to manage the club. And I've never and will never have any sort of, I know where we're at as a club. I know the level we're at. And there have been times in our history where we've probably punched above our weight. But in and around that top 6 of the Championship, bottom 6 of the Premiership is probably where we're at in any given time. So recently we've underachieved, certainly over the last decade, give or take maybe one season. But now I think we're in a position where we've got a manager that can get us into that sort of cluster again. You know, he's not Mourinho. We ain't gonna be winning the Premiership, but we're certainly not Karanka, and we're not going to be. And in all due respect to some of the other managers we have that haven't cut it, I think we get predictability with Bowyer. It does what it says on the tin. You're not going to get any. I think the one, and we both, you guys certainly highlighted it. Halilovic was a bit of surprise. I don't know whether he's got too many of those in his locker, but at least he's demonstrated that he has, and bringing Seddon on, which I didn't see that coming. Yeah. So maybe it's not just, one size fits all. Maybe there is more to him than just that sort of, dogs of war, 4-4-2. Let's just smash them to pieces and Juke will get a headed goal and away we go 1-0. I think we've probably got a little bit more to look forward to than that. But he's certainly got that as that's his mainstay. That's his sort of default. And I'm massively comfortable with that, because I do think that is, whether we like default. It or not, it is, and it is representative of 40 years of following the club. There haven't been many sides that have played unbelievable football. We are what we are, and I tell you what, the ironic thing of all of this is, I think now St Andrews is going to be a fucking horrible place to come and play football from now until the end of the season.
But that will be Bowyer's main focus, even with though.
Because Bowyer, he will feel it. He'll remember what it was like. He's been there when it's been absolutely chocker. He's been there on the big nights, semi-finals. He's fucking scored goals. So he knows what it's about. And Karank had no clue, because obviously he'd never seen it. Not really, not like that in our sort of heyday. So many good things going for us. I think, we'll probably good time to sort of maybe lead into the Watford game, and just a couple of comments on that. So Tom, do you think he's going to take, do you expect any changes, or do you think this is, let's ride the crest of the wave? Okay.
I think straight away, I'm not saying that he'll stick with the same team for the rest of the season, but I do think he'll stick with the same team for the second game in a row. I don't think he'll want to change. He might make one change depending on any niggles or anything like that. We all saw that Bella picked up a little bit of a nasty one in the first half, but seemed to recover definitely in the second half. So, no, it depends. But I think if he has the opportunity to keep it the same, he will. Would I be against him changing it? No, because he's had more time in the job now and might feel that a certain selection is better, because at the end of the day, he is the man in charge, he is the manager, he selects the side, end of story. And that's the way it should be. So no, I think I'd be all for keeping it the way it is now, but if he wants to change it, then I'm excited to see how he changes it. Because I've still got, I think everyone's still got the new manager buzz, really, because you're excited to see what Blues can become, or what we're going to try, what's going to happen. And I'd be happy for him to stick with the same squad, but if there's any changes he feels like he should make, then I'd be open to seeing what they are and where they take us. But for now, my personal view would be to stick with what we've got. Maybe change up the playing style a little bit. Like you said, he feels like we could have been a little bit better in possession at times. Overall, I didn't think we were bad. I thought we were far from bad. But, if he thinks we can improve on that and we do improve on that, then great. I'd be over the moon with a point this weekend because I don't think Watford have lost at home yet this season. So it's going to be a tough one for sure.
Yeah. Carl, just from a comparison of styles, do you think Watford would suit us better than Reading? Even though obviously we've done a number on Reading. Are Watford a bit more direct, or how do you see it?
I think a lot of the top six are very similar in the way they like to play. They like to play football, fancy football. But I do think that Watford will have a look at the way that we set up and played Reading, and we'll probably try to go a bit more direct than fanciful because that didn't work for Reading the other night. Okay, going direct didn't work for them either in the end, but I think Watford will probably look to do that. They've got some fantastic Premier League quality players in their side, I think, still. Yeah. I think Watford will try to be a bit more direct and may even try and launch long balls over the top to get those quick players down the sides and in around the back. Our players, certainly our centre backs, aren't the quickest on the turn, and I think they might look to use that to their advantage. Certainly looking at the way that Watford tore Rotherham apart the other night, and obviously you've got to put the asterisk there of, okay, Rotherham's squad has been depleted and all that with the COVID stuff, but Watford just went to town on them, and I think as much as we've got the confidence from Reading, I think they will be absolutely buoyant because I think they're now second in the league, Watford, because of the results that went their way as well. So I think they will look to maybe change it, be more direct than we were probably going to be expecting had the former regime been in charge.
Yeah. I think we were on a decent run of form when we played them first time around, and we lost to the odd goal penalty, which probably wasn't a penalty. So I wasn't massively impressed, but we felt like we were just hanging on into the game there. We weren't seem to be doing a lot. It was, very much that Karanka, let's just shut up shop and hope we can just grind out a 0-0. I personally don't think that he'll change much. Wouldn't mind seeing Sanchez on the left and maybe giving Bella a blow, and have Sanchez left and maybe Ililovic on the other side, or vice versa, both left peggers, but at least one of them is going to be playing in the natural side. I think outside of that, I don't think you can give anybody the hook after that performance. No. I don't think it deserves it. I think that the one criticism that I've had of Harper is he seems to have struggled when he's played Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. And he didn't leave anything else. Everything was on the pitch when he got off. He was just everywhere. and I think that with Bowyer, he doesn't strike me as a sort of bloke that's going to be scared of, to your point, Tom, making that decision. I think if somebody's head and shoulders this week in training, and somebody that played last night is looking a bit leggy, he'll make the change, because again, early days, he doesn't really owe anybody anything. He's got no real affiliation to anybody. Yeah. And it'll be interesting, we're all joking aside, the likes of the sort of the outcasts of San Jose and people, and McGree. I thought McGree was going to come on, I must admit. That's the one change I thought he would make.
I hope he gives McGree a go in this side.
I think McGree's his sort of player. If you think about how Bowyer was as a footballer himself, I think he'll have a lot of time for McGree. Very simple, no nonsense. He's not as strong in the challenge as Bowyer was. Because Bowyer was a nasty little bastard, to be honest. And that's why he was a bloody folk hero at Blues. But I do think that it's a tough proposition. It wouldn't surprise. I think they're all in play. I know that's an obvious statement. I can see.
I thought Sunjic looked good when he came on.
Yeah, and I think I know Tom G has said on many occasions that Sunjic, when we signed him, looked a player. And I remember first couple of games, I was like, he's the Croatian assassin, blah, blah, blah. He looks the part. He looks like
He looked like him more himself the other day.
Yeah. It was square pegs in round holes with him. And Cole made a really good point last time around. He looked excellent with Kifton Belt. I think he needs structure. I think if you ask him to go and play sort of almost a 10, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Or on the left wing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it will be between. All of a sudden, you've got a three go into 2 there. So you've got Gardner, Sunjic, and Harper, and the amount of games that we've got, they can't. They're going to have to interchange to a degree. So, yeah, I do think it's massively a clean slate, and I hope we've got an £8 million player on our hands. I really do. But I do think everybody's going to get that opportunity. And I think first up, he's obviously gone with the people that have been in more often than not, seen what they're about. I think he'll have been quite, sort of quietly surprised and probably relieved that we've got a team there that, Reading's home record was the best in the league. Away record was the best in the league. Our home record was the worst in the league. And standard Blues, we go and beat them. But I think we've said it many times on the pod. All I want from the Watford game is, again, just go in there expecting probably a 4-4-2. No real surprises in the shape and the personnel. Going with that real change of attitude, desperate for it, hungry for it. And Watford won't. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. If you've got that sort of commitment, it's not nice. And if they've got a few players who are having an off day, they don't want to be having an off day against a side that's motivated like we are, certainly at the moment. But I do also think there has to be a level of that. For me, was a bonus, massive bonus. Yeah. And if we come up short against Watford, as long as the performance is there, again, it's trying to be realistic.
If by some minor miracle we beat them, Jesus Christ, that'd be the most Blues thing ever.
I think that's it, isn't it? I think these 4 games, I've said it last week, I said it in the preview, I don't think any of us were expecting any points whatsoever out the 4 that we had, did we? Let's be honest. We've now got 3. Even if we only get one other point out of these 4 games, that's 4 points from these 4. That's massive, I think, for us, where we were after the Bristol game, standing kind of on the edge of utter oblivion, I feel. Yeah. Now that's turned. We've got 3 almost bonus points. We've put the pressure back on Rotherham. And I think Brian Dick earlier made it a very good point. We've now dragged other teams back into it as well. Yeah. Coventry are back into it. Derby, Forest. Yeah.
Huddersfield are on the edge.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if we are able to get, if we win, then crikey, I'll get Bowyer's face tattooed.
If we win on Saturday, I'm certain we're not going down.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. God, my God.
Absolutely.
It's because then you're literally talking 2 from ace. And we've got Derby, Rotherham, somebody else that's sort of down there. Can't remember who, top of my head. But we've got a run of 3 games that you'd like to think we're gonna. If we put a performance in and we turn up, there's more than likely.
Exactly. If we win 4 of Lee Bowyer's 10 games, I think.
Oh yeah, no problem. End off.
Yeah, no worries whatsoever.
So yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if we managed to get over the line on Saturday. But one thing that I am, and this is I suppose starting to wrap things up. I'm confident I know what I'm going to see. If that makes sense, with formation, team, performance. If it's good enough, great. If it isn't good enough, they're the better team.
It's not bingo.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. It's actual grown-up, proper, committed football, professional. And if they're the better team, they're second in the league. We're 4th from bottom. They're at home. Guess what? We're probably not going to be good enough. But let's go there and make sure they know they've been in a game. And that hasn't happened enough this season. So just before we wrap up, Tom, give us a prediction then, mate.
I'm gonna go 2-1 Watford.
Okay.
I think we'll give a proper fight, and I think it'll be really hard done by a result. but I think it will be a result that we can take into the next game and be proud of the fact that we really, really gave it a go.
Yeah.
I don't want to pile on too much pressure and be like, oh, we'll get a point, we'll get something out of the game. But I do think there's every chance we could still win that game. Despite my prediction, I do feel there's every chance we could win the game. So I'm certainly not ruling it out. I just really hope that this season, kind of aside from the Watford game a bit, it just doesn't go down to the last day. I can't be arsed with another last day survival. I can't do it. Like, I'm 18 years of age, yet my heart feels like a 90-year-old's heart, and it's because of Blues. I just don't fancy it. I really don't.
Yeah.
So there we are.
Yeah.
But no, I'll go 2-1 Watford, but I really hope we can get something out of the game, obviously. So we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
Carl?
Yeah, I think Watford will probably just have that bit too much for us. And I think it might well come down to that one bit of quality, obviously they've got quality all the way through the team from the keeper up to the strikers. So I think it's going to be close. I'll go 1-0 Watford rather than just to be different to Tom. But yeah, I think we're going to make it feel like a game, and I think it'll be disappointing to lose because it's always disappointing to lose. But I think we're going to be proud in defeat for the first time in a long time, which feels weird to say, but and then again, it's that platform. We've then got the international break to work from, and I thoroughly think on current form, I think Swansea and Brentford are there for the taking. To be honest, he says 3 weeks out, full of confidence after a 1-0 win, a 2-1 win. Sorry, so
but I think on that point, the international break is going to come at a really, even if we get 2 wins on the trot, even then, I think he comes at the right time because he does need to work out what the fuck is going on. He's got to get his feet under the table, not just with the playing staff. He's got to get himself used to his surroundings. It's a massive club, and I'm sure that he'll want to meet as many people as he can to, as he said, bring everybody together. And he was at pains to say that in his interview. So I think we'll draw. I think it'll be 1-1, and the reason I say that, Reading are a decent attacking force. I don't think we're going to be doing the Karanka, let's make wholesale changes to try and fit how they play. He'll set up 4-4-2. There ain't going to be a lot of changes. And we did limit Reading to not a lot, really, but not a lot.
We do that to Watford, then great.
Well,
we held them at St Andrews for long enough.
And that's why I'm saying I think that we could get something out of the game purely on the way we restricted them. But yeah, so I'm going to go 1 apiece. I think winning is probably a bit
slim,
of a slim,
but not impossible.
Bit of a bridge too far. But yeah, again, I certainly wouldn't rule that out either. But I think 1-1 for me.
Yeah.
Right, I think that's about it. So, Carl, again, so you're 2 for 2. You've gone through a sacking, an appointment, and a victory. So, And
if we lose, you'll get a sacking.
You're definitely coming back. Carl, thanks very much, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, lads. It's been great.
No worries, mate.
Top man, and Tom, as ever, great work with the previews and the watch-alongs. They're quite good fun. So I'd certainly recommend anybody to have a look at those as well. But thanks for your contribution today, mate.
No worries.
Right then, that's it. Well, a week that felt like a year. Brilliant performance from Blues, but brilliant appointment by Blues. Fucking hell, I didn't think I'd be saying that. But we said the formula changes from I think probably 3 from 9 now, and it just feels like we've got somebody that, as we've always said, that gets the club at the helm, and I think we can all probably sleep a little bit more safe, that we can probably get ourselves out of this shit and look about what we can do next season. And I think Dong needs to repair the ground, because if we're in the Championship next year, it needs to be secure, because we'll be making it fucking shake. That is for certain.
Yeah.
So between now and obviously the upcoming game against Watford, Troy Dean, if you watch this, please don't score again, for fuck's sake. But for now, everybody, stay safe and keep right on.